Hi! What a wonderful piece, isn't it? This is a reproduction of a constellation chart originally published in 1660 in the Netherlands by Andreas Celerius. Constellations have a very special place in the history of astronomy and in human culture. People of all sorts have used constellations to make sense of the night sky and, in fact, to make sense of their own lives. The idea of finding patterns and figures in the sky is a very compelling one, and it has long made its way into popular culture. That includes music and record covers. Let me show you three records from my personal record collection that actually give us some hints as to how constellations have evolved over time. Let's begin with some jazz. Here I have a copy of Soul Zodiac, an album by the Nat Adderley Sextet from 1972. This is a double LP that comes in a nice gatefold sleeve, and when you open up the gatefold, inside you find a reproduction of a star chart originally printed in 1515. This was a collaboration between Albrecht Dürer and the mathematician Johann Stabius. So they produced two maps, one for the Northern Hemisphere, which is the one you see here, and another one for the Southern Hemisphere. You probably recognize it. Some of the constellations in this map. For example, we have the Great Bear here, and we have the constellations of the Zodiac along this circle. The two maps combined show 48 constellations that had their origins in Mesopotamia and in ancient Greece. Then in the Middle Ages, Islamic astronomers preserved and developed this knowledge, and those constellations came to form the core of a set of constellations that we still use to this day. So what astronomers did in the centuries that followed the publication of Dürer's maps was to map the sky with ever greater accuracy. And while doing so, they kept on filling the gaps with new constellations. Well, at some point, it got a bit confusing because different astronomers were coming up with different constellations, and it was not always clear where one constellation ended and where the adjoining constellations began. So astronomers eventually had to tackle those issues. How did they do that? My next record actually sheds some light on that. This is an ambient music record, a collaboration between Robert Fripp of King Crimson and Brian Eno, titled The Equatorial Stars, released in 2004. So the album cover shows just a small part of a modern star chart, and the differences between this chart and the one you just saw are quite evident. There are no fanciful drawings or renditions here. You just have the dots to show you the stars, so these dots have different sizes so that they can give you a notion of the apparent brightness of the stars. Of course, the brightest ones will be the largest symbols. You have some straight lines connecting the stars to provide you guidance. This is the Milky Way, and importantly, note these dark straight lines. These are actually the boundaries between the constellations. So in the 1920s, the International Astronomical Union picked up on 88 constellations that had had a steady presence in star charts over the preceding centuries, and they divided the sky into 88 regions corresponding to those constellations. So this set of 88 constellations is the set of constellations that we use today for common reference. It provides astronomers and stargazers with the common language they can use when they talk about constellations. But does that mean that these are all the constellations that exist, or that we can no longer find new patterns or figures among the stars? Of course not. Let me tell you a little story and show you my last record, Aladdin Sane by David Bowie from 1974. In 2016, millions of music fans around the world, including myself, were saddened by the news that David Bowie had passed away. And a few days later, the news broke that astronomers in Belgium had created a constellation for David Bowie. The alleged constellation represented a lightning bolt on his face on the cover of this album. But was it really a constellation? Was it a constellation in the sense that these are constellations? Or was it the 89th constellation? No, it was just an asterism, which is basically any simple star pattern that this group of astronomers highlighted as a way of celebrating David Bowie and his amazing legacy. It was a very appropriate homage since David Bowie is known as the Starman, but that was all. It was not meant to be another constellation to be added to this canon. It's also important to note that different peoples and cultures all over the world have developed their own bodies of star knowledge and sky knowledge, and their own constellations. So the tradition represented by the 88 constellations defined by the International Astronomical Union is one tradition among many. And the night sky remains open to everyone's imagination. So please keep looking up, let your imagination fly, and if you can, do that to the sound of some good music. I will now myself play one of these records. I don't know which because I love them all. Which one would you pick up? Let me know. Thank you for watching. Stay well. Bye-bye.